made on Ridgeway Sports Podcast, episode 93. Hunter Keister back in the building. Friday afternoon, I am joined with hell yeah, Friday afternoon, and we got an exciting one to talk about. Gonna start it off highlighting the fight weekend from last weekend. We had the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul boxing match with a full 3 or 4 fight card, which had some interesting fights. We did end up watching that from start to finish, and highlighted by the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, obviously super fight. Mike Tyson, what was it, like some 20 years out of the ring, and he tries to come back and fight. But before we get into that one, we have to highlight the co-main event, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. This was an amazing women's rematch boxing match. Two incredible boxers. Katie Taylor was Irish, and then what was Serrano? Do you know? Do you know her nationality? I know Taylor was Irish, but I couldn't remember for sure. I don't remember for sure, but I know Katie Taylor was Irish. She won the first fight. The second one, I guess you can call it close. Kurt, let's get into that. I don't even know what you would call that. Like, to me, I mean, I don't even know how to say this. Amanda Serrano clearly won that fight. I mean, there was some key pieces in that fight of stuff happening, like Katie Taylor using her head more than once and ends up getting a point deduction, which, as we learned throughout this fight and from Serrano's coaches, this wasn't Taylor's first encounter with using her head as a offensive weapon in boxing. And Kurt, I don't know, started off with your initial reaction to that. I mean, the coaches are calling out the fighter during the fight, after the fight. Crazy decision. Yeah, I don't know. Give your first reactions to that. Yep, it was shorter, quicker 2-minute round. I thought that was interesting too. Kind of made them push the fight more as it went on. Especially when it didn't really give them a chance to get tired. It really just kind of kept them in close range. They had some crazy exchanges, and the round would end, and they'd get a little break. And I think that kind of made for a more exciting fight than a traditional. What would it be? 3 minutes, I believe, is a traditional boxing round. So just gave them that much less time and made them more use that time more effective. But I did hear about that too. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like we can't find a state that has good ones at this point. Yeah, wherever, wherever. Yeah, I couldn't believe that. Like I said, I think Kurt said it a little bit, but just putting that into perspective for the casuals out there for the fighting game, dropping a weight class is something by itself. Like, it's harder if you go up or down, rather what you're used to. Obviously, that's either cutting weight or trying to add more and fight with girls that are either used to this weight lower or more natural to this weight at the higher weight classes. She has gone down to try to get her third belt in her third division, going down, what was it, 15 pounds, three weight classes. And she gave Katie Taylor every single bit of what she can handle and then some. Like Kurt says, honestly, I'm just going to say this right now, clear as day. Serrano won that fight to me. Like, that was a unanimous, not even a split decision. That was a unanimous decision victory for Serrano that was robbed from her at the hands of those god awful judges. I would really love to hear an explanation, a detailed explanation on how do you score that fight in Taylor's favor. Because maybe I need to rewatch the fight and add with those kind of lenses, but it's not. Now that wasn't. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm that too, and let's just talk about that a little bit. Like, I know everybody's talked about it, everybody's harped on it, but man, if Netflix has any aspirations of getting into the live streaming, especially if you're gonna have NFL games that are gonna have maybe not that many people, but quite a lot for a Christmas game, we can't have that. We can't have people watching quarters of the games or maybe even less than that. Absolutely, absolutely. Man, I'm gonna say there was a couple times in those later rounds I did doze off. I did catch myself doing a little one of these and one of these, just as I don't know, to start Tyson the first round, amazing. Honestly, pretty amazing. He looked good. He was firing. He was throwing shots. I thought that it was going to be a really entertaining back and forth just off this first round alone. And then I don't know if it was Tyson. I know he came out and said he had a lot of injuries, so I don't know if he just felt the effects of fighting. Obviously, being a whole lot older, you got to have that new effect. But just everything outside of that, just to say this, his training camps looked incredible. Like, I know they're just like cut up video, but he looked really good. He looked explosive. He looked pretty fast for his age. He gave off the notation that it was going to be a close fight and that he still had some juice left after not competing for all this time. And after that first round, we really just got a Mike Tyson that didn't really come forward. Jake Paul even said it himself, and I felt like he definitely carried this fight to the middle rounds. And I feel like that's why it was so boring because it really was just Jake trying to make action. And like I said, I think Mike just kind of felt it, especially as the fight went on. And honestly, just kudos to him for not getting knocked out. I'm really glad that he didn't. I know Jake Paul probably like he probably could have, and he probably like I think you got to respect the sport a little bit more, regardless on how you feel about Tyson, because you're already kind of disrespecting it enough by fighting this guy at such a old age. If you knock him out, what's that like? Yeah, you knocked him out, but what's that really show? So I don't know, Kurt. What do you think? Yeah, talk about your perspective of this fight. Yeah, we can say that both 100%. That's crazy. A lot of people can't say that, or they, like our age obviously couldn't say that. So that is cool. Yeah, I mean, you can be a fan and you can hope all you want, but if you like I saw people truly putting some serious money on the line for Mike Tyson, and I just like you got to think about like, did you really think a 58-year-old like it would have taken the perfect storm of things to happen, and that's what I think. And then you hear about what came out after the fight and the stipulations. Like there was rumors that Mike Tyson wasn't allowed to throw uppercuts, which you didn't see him throw at all. Pretty much just jabs and crosses sometimes, but it was mostly just jabs out of Tyson, and just there was a lot of just different stipulations on what could be done and what couldn't. Obviously, you kind of have to put some of that in place for to protect Tyson and his age, but it also I think it handicapped him a little bit, and we saw that. So, like you said, an easy, clear, decisive win for Paul over Tyson. Not much really need to talk about there. Just wanted to obviously highlight it as it was a really big event, crashing Netflix completely, like we said. And yeah, they need to do some serious work if they're gonna try to do stuff like this in the future. That was abysmal to say the best. Some people didn't see any of this fight. You know, if they had problems the whole time, think about the guys that had like the people with the meh internet connection. Oh yeah, you're done for. You're done for. Yeah, it really was almost an hour per fight. I mean, I know you gotta have the respective build up, but that was awful. I mean, sitting there from 8, like, especially if you're, like, a real casual fan that only wants to watch these 2 fight, imagine that, like, you're just sitting there, and you're sitting there for hours and hours, hours waiting for this fight to happen, and then it finally comes, and you're damn near too tired to watch it. Yep, everything's gonna be about how much we can squeeze the orange to get the most juice out of it. So yeah, that was a good boxing card. We'll move on to UFC 309 Saturday, which was the night after. Obviously, made for a really cool two day of fights. Obviously, Friday night, Saturday night. So Kurt was on the road, going or not obviously, but Kurt was on the road, not able to watch a whole lot of this UFC card. And honestly, I was at a house party, so I was little mixy, but definitely got to watch a good majority of these fights. I will say that I'll start with the third fight as the main card went like this. Duffy won a decision fight that I was not able to see much of. And Karina Silva and Arjo, I actually picked Silva and had a little bit of money on this one. She was the one fight on my, I believe, 4 pick parlay that I made that ended up missing as I took Silva and Arjo won by unanimous decision. Fights that I did see though, getting into the third fight on this main card, it was an older Paul Craig having a 17-8 record at this point, taking on Bo Nickal. Now, Bo Nickal, obviously, collegiate record, collegiate rest 4-year career at Penn State. I believe 2 or 3 time national champion, just incredibly decorated wrestler, USA Olympian, you name it. Now making his way to the UFC. One of the first really high level wrestlers to do this. There's been a couple guys that tried, but nobody like Bo Nickal. And he's had obviously immense success. 7-0. I do want to say he had were they all finished? He didn't have all finishes. I think he had maybe one decision fight before this, if I'm not mistaken. But Paul Craig, this is just a 3-round fight, but Paul Craig really takes it to him. Not allowing Bo to use his wrestling, and Bo has to use his striking a lot, leading to not as no no. It's good. Fucking Jimmy just left finally. So all right, we'll just hop back into it. I'll just pretty much we're just wrapping that up. So I'll just wrap that up real quick. All right, getting back into it. Bo Nickal, Paul Craig, unanimous decision. Kurt, I mean, obviously you didn't really see much list, but what do you make of Paul Craig taking out Bo Nickal's number one, I don't know what you call it, ability or attribute in his wrestling and making him kind of stand and bang and ultimately finding a decision win, but not getting the finish like a lot of people expected and, taking it to Bo. Yeah. You gotta think it's gonna be a big one, you gotta think at this point, 7-0, maybe not the craziest, maybe not top 5, but definitely probably in the top 10, he'll get a guy who is certainly up there. Obviously, Bo, he's got some things to look at as far as his game, and he's got some things to look at as far as his next opponent. But he does get out of there. Maybe not as easily as you would have liked for a minus 1,300 favorite at closing. So definitely Paul Craig. Like I said, I think I did mention to put a little sprinkle on Paul Craig, and he gave you a little run for your money there. Not obviously not getting the job done, but that was that fight. We'll now move into the co-main event, and obviously I was completely locked in for this one. The co-main event, Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. This fight, 5 rounds agreed to upon both these guys, as they are both contenders in their rightful mind. I mean, Chandler coming over from what was he at one fighting or something like that. Yeah, one fighting, I believe it was. Did he come over for Demetrius? Something like that. Or no, that was yeah, it was him. Okay, so then he fights Charles Oliveira. Honestly, Charles comes out pretty hot. You could just tell. I picked Charles to win this one, and through about the first 4 rounds, he was pretty much just doing that, pretty much dominating Michael Chandler. Had him cracked a couple of times, really had him hurt a couple of times. It looked like, but really good fight by Michael Chandler. His face got absolutely tore up, but he stood in there and he banged. And then the 5th round comes around, and Michael Chandler kind of finally sees his opportunity, and he starts taking it back to Charles Oliveira as he is surprisingly still in the fight in the 5th round. But after that, he really takes it to Charles Oliveira. He hits him with a couple good shots. I mean, it wasn't the cleanest of wins. It was I believe it was unanimous decision. But especially after that 5th round, you kind of left like, ooh, if Michael Chandler would have came out with that in the third, that could have been really really close and really interesting. But good fight for Michael Chandler nonetheless to stay up, stay good there and lose a decision. Shows some fight in the 5th, and Charles Oliveira just continues. 35-10 is just a crazy record. Like that's so many fights in the UFC or just on his record professionally. But Charles Oliveira is one of my favorites right now. He is absolutely crazy, and I'm excited for now both these guys. As Michael Chandler still has his eyes on a possible fight with Conor McGregor. Who knows if we'll ever see that happening, especially with Conor apparently having some sexual assault allegations found on him in court today. I was reading that a couple minutes ago. He was found in a civil trial in Iris. He did announce that he will be, what is that called, appealing. He will be appealing that decision right away, as he believes not all the evidence was presented. But yeah, he's in some hot water right now with that, and then just everything else. Who knows if we'll see Conor McGregor back in the octagon? But Michael Chandler still certainly seems like that will happen, and he definitely wants the payday that would come with that. So he preaches on for that. We'll see what both these fighters get as far as Oliveira and Chandler go. Kurt, I know you weren't really able to watch it, like you said, some streaming issues, of course, but I guess just talk about Oliveira. Big win, decisive effort. Absolutely, absolutely. He hadn't fought in 2 years. Uh, November 12th, almost 2 years exactly. November 12th, 2022, he lost by a sub to Dustin Poirier. But I mean, looking at the guys that he's fought in the UFC so far, he got KO'd by Oliveira in a title fight. I forgot that even happened. He lost to Gacy by decision, beat Tony Ferguson by KO. That was the start of the Tony Ferguson massive slow decline. But then obviously a sub loss. And then, yeah, like you said, 2 years kind of playing the waiting game with Conor, just trying to get that to go after the Ultimate Fighter. comes and goes, and he has to sit around and wait. So I could definitely see ring rust being the case, especially when you're going against somebody against Oliveira, who's been really, really active and just fights all the time. So definitely, you saw that. Maybe it was just like Oliveira just came out hot and fast, and then by the time Chandler knew it was the fifth round, he was like, "Yeah, I gotta go now, or it's over." So that's really kind of what I could see happening there. But yeah, compared to somebody who's fighting twice in 22, once in 23, and already his second fight in 24, you were just going to be outmatched there almost completely. And like I said, another good on Chandler to not get put down there and showed some heart there at the end, made it interesting, and gave us a decent co-main event as we got ready for two heavyweight legends. And I'll jump into that if you're ready for that. Hell yeah, John Bones Jones taking on Stipe Miocic, the Croatian, Cleveland, Ohio legend, heavyweight GOAT, Stipe Miocic, coming back into the ring after his 3 years out of the cage, last losing to Francis Ngannou by KO, and then beating Daniel Cormier twice out of their three fights. They fought in 18, 19, and 20. He lost the first one, got KO'd in round one, came back with a KO of his own in the second fight, and then a unanimous decision win in their trilogy. So that was Stipe, as obviously just really good. Obviously, everybody around here, Ohio native, everybody loves him. How can you not? Probably one of the only guys from Ohio that I actually root for, honestly, was Stipe, and yeah, he was great in his own right. 20-5 record, and he comes back after a 3-year layoff. Kurt, before we even talk about this fight, I just want to hear this. Johnny Bones, 28, just freak of nature, pound for pound, top three all time. You could say that he obviously has a great case for number one of all time, but we'll call it top three for sake of argument. Now, you're talking about a 3-year layoff where obviously John Jones hasn't had the best personal life. Obviously had some struggles of his own. Fought in 19 twice, 2020 once, and then a 3-year layoff before that dominating win over Sirogan last year in March. So he had just a year off compared to Stipe, who had three. And I guess let's talk about that. Talk about Stipe. No return, no warm up, no tune up, just 3 years off. We're gonna throw you back in with one of the greatest of all time. Talk about that. Who push people away almost in a sense, just get him off you. Oh man, he truly outside of the octagon is one thing. He hasn't been the best person, but what has been cool is just hearing his redemption in life and just how he's kind of found God and just I don't know. I'm not gonna bring religion into this, but just like just his redemption story has been truly remarkable. Obviously, a whole bunch of really heinous, nasty stuff happened, and just to see him for one come back and fighting for championships and just fighting in general is great. But just to hear him talk about the redemption that he's made in life and the change that he's made to become a better person have been truly just remarkable to me. I was always a fan of John Jones, but I feel like it's been a lot easier to be a fan of his now compared to when he was just running wild and acting like he was Billy Badass and doing a whole bunch of just really dumb stuff and costing himself a lot of his prime of his career because that 28-1 record could be a whole lot more than that, or he could have already etched his legacy and been done if you really think about it. But it is what it is. It's in the past, and I'm really happy to see where he's gone. And just to talk about that more, I haven't been that excited, and that reaction hasn't come out of me in a UFC fight in a long time. When he hit that, I think that because like Kurt said, wasn't able to see a whole lot of it. I think through the first couple rounds, they didn't really. John was he was landing, but it wasn't nothing too crazy. I thought that it was just like kind of just feeling it out. I really thought Stipe looked old, looked sluggish, like I thought. It's hard not to with the ring rust and everything, but it certainly was there through the first couple rounds. I mean, it says Stipe threw what 94 total strikes, 37 out of 89 significant. And John Jones threw a total of 128, landing 104. So that's really good to only miss 24 strikes. 96 of 119 significant. And like you said, that the torque on that kick, man. When I seen him throw that and just I saw it land and I don't think anything of it, obviously, when it first happened. I just see Stipe crumple to the ground and my jaw is just like because like I said, it wasn't nothing. It wasn't like Stipe was on the ropes really. Like he wasn't about to get put down or nothing. That like really finished him. Like that took him from probably about 80 or 90% to zero like that. Like you said, broke his ribs, which I didn't know. I'm sure Stipe probably came out and said that, but I didn't know that for sure. Obviously thought it, but didn't know it for sure. And just like you said, the torque and the creativity. That's what I wanted to say. The creativity of John Jones. That's what I would say. He's probably one of the most creative fighters that has been in the UFC ever. With just all the spinning techniques and just everything that he has in his arsenal, with all that length, it really is the perfect storm, and it really is why he's as great as he is. It's because it's the perfect storm of everything, and then everywhere you would think he has a hole, that you look for it, you look to exploit it, and it's not there. It's never there. It's never been there for anybody. And I mean, people thought it was Cormier. People thought it was you name it all through John Jones's career. Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember that Reyes decision. That was a little spotty, but it's almost like, are you gonna take his undefeated this championship fight or take it away off his first man fight ever after how many spectacular fights in a row? Are you really gonna be like, you might have lost that fight, so we're gonna give you a loss the first chance we get? Probably not. I need to see him get put down, like you said. But I do remember those Gustafsson fights. Gustafsson was, I mean, like to see him fight John Jones that good. I can't believe he didn't do more with his career. Gustafsson. I know some stuff happened. I remember hearing like a story down on him, like what happened, but just to hear him not be as decorated in the UFC, I thought he was gonna really take off after those John Jones fights, despite losing them. I just like how can you be the only person to find these weaknesses and really exploit John Jones like he did in both of their fights? Yes, UFC 310 is gonna be spectacular. There's a lot of good fights on that for sure. Trying to think, Pantoja and that Asakura. He's from the Japanese fighting league, undefeated and or no, he's 21 and 4. 21 and 4 versus 28 and 5 Pantoja. They really believe he's going to give Pantoja a run for his money for that belt. And then the fight that got moved up was Rakhmonov taking on both undefeated 18 and 0 Ian Gary moving up from his, he was on like a fight night main event with Buckley like the week after, and with all the movement with Rachmanov and not being able to find a guy, they throw Ian Gary in there at 15-0, and they give him what is this? Is this going to be? I wonder if this will be 5 rounds. I don't think it says, but this is an undefeated fight. Obviously, Rachmanov wanted to fight for the belt. He doesn't get that chance, but you got to think whoever wins this fight is certainly the number one contender, undefeated, and then taking somebody's the O away from somebody. It's no question he's the number one contender. So that's a amazing fight. Ciro Gane trying to rebound off that bad John Jones. He's just 12-2 though, so he's really good. Fighting Volkov, who's no slouch at 38-10, a whole lot of professional fights, and he's never a slouch. But at minus 265, that's a lot of people think Ciro Gane will win that one. Bryce Mitchell coming back. He's one of my favorites. The camo shorts himself. He's taking on Kron Gracie, who I really don't know anything about. He's only 5-2 professionally, so that's one of the first fights of the main card. And then Nate Landwehr taking on Doho Choi as the featured the first fight on the main card. And then Anthony Smith and Dominic Reyes are fighting on the featured prelim. That's something. Aljamain Sterling's all the way down on the prelims of 310. Wow. He's fighting. That's actually a good fight. Moisla Evelev is 18-0, and Sterling's 24-4. So that's actually a really good fight. I cannot believe that fight is happening on the prelims. But there's a lot of good fights. I mean, I know Brian Battle and Randy Brown. I know both those guys not the best. But then Chris Weidman and Eric Anders gets picked back up as a catchweight fight. So that fight's going to happen. I was actually excited to see that. That was supposed to happen on 309, and then Anders had some health issues, so they pushed it back. So that's good to see that they were just able to push it back, but not fully just scrap the fight entirely. But then just from even the first fights of early prelims, Cody Durden, Michael Chiesa. Wow. I mean, yeah, this fight, this card's good. This card's good from top to bottom. That card's gonna be real good to watch. Excited for that one, for sure. All right, got the fighting talk out of the way. Kurt, shall we move on to the Thursday night football game we both watched yesterday? All right, so I want to just get it started. I'm gonna obviously give you your chance to speak your piece on this game. But 19-24 back and forth game with Cleveland, 2-8 Cleveland, 8-2 Pittsburgh. Starting off this game, Cleveland looked to, obviously I didn't watch any of it. I ended up in Ann Arbor watching Michigan take on Charleston State in a basketball game. So Kurt, I guess you can just start off with just the starting, I guess the opening start, the first quarter was 0-0. And then obviously a 10-3 at half. But I guess just your initial, what happened at the initial start of the game, and why was it such few scoring, I guess?
Possessed the ball for the first quarter. First drive of the game, we missed a 58-yard field goal. Also missed, and not really sure why we're kicking the ball in unideal conditions. Rather than just
because it was really windy. It was really windy, really windy, despite the snow that eventually came. Right, like there was pretty bad conditions to start with.
Yeah,
but just to hear that Boswell miss a kick, you don't hear that.
No, that's only his second miss of the year. We were able to possess the ball, like I mentioned, but just every time we get past midfield, we get a mistimely penalty or a sack. And just couldn't really do anything past the 50-yard line. And it also had a lot to do with Myles Garrett, who definitely gave us a lot of fits last night. He had 3 sacks in the first half and a forced fumble.
In the first half?
In the first half, yeah.
Just after all the flack Pittsburgh and Browns fans give each other for both those players respectively, I think it is just crazy for Myles Garrett to be almost a ghost completely throughout this first half of the year, and the Browns have looked terrible, and he picks a random Thursday night game in Cleveland to come out and really, let his talents be shown. As wow, that is a first half to remember for.
Yep, just a lot of third and shorts, whether it be a yard or two, and a lot of fourth and shorts, and couldn't pick up any of those. So
Really? Okay.
yep.
That means
So a
you're
lot
not
of that
getting in field goal range.
that
Turn the ball
problem
over.
remained pretty evident, and that's how the first half went. But Cleveland kind of got the ball rolling the second quarter. Jameis Winston got some things going, but really that forced fumble by Myles Garrett was pretty big in the first half, and gave them a short field in the second quarter. So
yeah, absolutely. Talk about Jameis Winston a little bit. I just, that's another redemption story, another Baker Mayfield-esque, not as good obviously, but just another redemption story after everything Jameis has went through, the terrible times in Tampa, being pretty decent with the Saints, but also having his problems there, and then finding a new home at Cleveland as they obviously needed a different direction from Watson, and just a big win for him, and honestly just been a really cool story to see him and try to continue his career and get a big win for these Cleveland fans. But he did play pretty well. I mean, 18 for 27, 219 yards, one interception in those ungodly conditions that both those quarterbacks faced. I feel like they both played really well. And I'm looking at Russell Wilson's, holy moly, what a stat line. 7 incompletions on the night, 270 yards. Man, he really told everybody that wanted to see Justin Fields as a starter to keep their mouths quiet, because since he has taken over, that Steelers offense, not the most points wise, but just from a moving the ball, and especially from what I think we both saw from Justin Fields in this offense, he has just been really, really good.
yeah, like I said, we were definitely. It wasn't a question of the Steelers couldn't move. They could move the ball last night. Just once we get past midfield, just whether it be bad play calling or players not executing, whether it's players open and Russ not hitting them. I like Russ, but the only thing I would say about him is that sometimes he holds on to the ball a little bit too long and takes sacks.
Okay.
Four sacks allowed, and last week we got sacked like 4 times. So, but in regards to this game, I'm gonna give Cleveland credit where it's due. Jameis Winston, I think it was like 4th and goal, runs it in for a big touchdown, and 3rd and 7 they can view.
That put them up as the game kind of went back and forth there, right? Cleveland scores, and then I believe Pittsburgh scored shortly after.
Yeah, I mean,
Like really
it was 6-18 heading into
Yep, I remember
at
seeing
one
that.
point in the fourth, but we had 2 takeaways in the fourth quarter, and that's how we were able to get back into the game. To be honest with you,
Takeaways.
we got a
Victor.
strip sack. We actually had 3 takeaways the second half. We got a fumble on the Browns' first possession of the second half, coming out of it was like within the first minute. And we got 2 takeaways in the fourth quarter. The first one was a Nate Herbig strip sack. We got a short field there. Converted that one to a touchdown. And then we actually got an interception with 3.5 minutes to go. We were up 19-18. And we weren't able to pick up a first down. 3rd and 4. Justin Fields is in the game. I'm not sure why.
No way! They pulled a Michigan. They pulled a Michigan orgy. 3rd down garbage call.
We had been playing Fields throughout the game because of the weather and just trying to run the ball with him. Had some success. Way earlier in the game, there was a 4th and 2 where Fields went the wrong way. If he had actually went to the left side, it was going to be a touchdown. And then later in the game, he had a big 30-yard run, but I'm not sure why. On 3rd and 4, when Russ was playing pretty efficient, I would say, you're going to throw the ball there. You're not going to run it with Fields. And you put Fields there under 3rd and 4, and you don't pick it up. You throw it to George Pickens, and it doesn't work. And the punter shanks the punt, and a 15-yard punt. The defense is on the field at our 40-yard line. And the Browns.
15-yard.
Yeah, dude, 15-yard punt. And so after the defense,
Shanks, and I've heard Shanks, and I don't even. That might
15 yards,
from a statistical standpoint, that might be one of the worst Shank, especially in that critical. I mean, I know the monsoon weather obviously takes over at this point, but man, a 15-yard shake punt in the most inopportune time.
So after the defense had just gotten an interception off of Winston, with 3.5 minutes to go, they're like, well,
it's in your hands now. We gave you the lead. We got you the ball back. Take us home. Take us home.
And so Cleveland gets the ball back at the 40-yard line. They get to an interesting 3rd and 2 play where Jameis Winston is forced to throw the ball. And as he's getting hit, he throws the ball and it hits one of the linemen. And instead of an intentional grounding, it gets changed to an ineligible touching. And so it goes from a 3rd and 2 to you accept the penalty and go 3rd and 7, or you decline the penalty and it's 4th and 2. And the Browns were going to go for it, but they were in field goal range. So Mike Tomlin accepts the penalty. It's 3rd and 7. The Browns pick it up with the big Jerry Jeudy first down conversion. And eventually they're able to run the ball in for a touchdown via Nick Chubb. And we get the ball back with a minute, one timeout, and it's that's not really an ideal condition. And so the Browns, they wanted this game, and they were able to do it, even though both teams honestly played bad, I would say. I mean, the Browns were 1 of 10 on 3rd down, but 4 of 4 on 4th down, and we were 1 of 3 on 4th down.
Wow, 4 of 4 on 4th down is like you're not gonna lose. You're not gonna lose many games if you're 4 on 4 on 4th down. And then to talk about Pittsburgh, we said 1 on 3 for 4th or 3rd.
We were 7 of 16 on 3rd down, but 1 of 3 on 1 of 3 on 4th down. We maintained the ball longer, but when you can't finish drives, and the Browns played ultra aggressive. I'll say that much, and give Cleveland credit. The AFC North game and short week, and they come up with a win. House of Horrors continues for Pittsburgh on the road in Cleveland, as they are now, I think, 1-7 their last 8 games there. So, yeah.
Dude, all right, so as I'll get into some of these just tidbits, that's what I did see was the first one. So Mike Tomlin, I don't know if it was Cleveland, but I saw Thursday Night Football road record went to 1-7 throughout his career there. So I guess I want to just kind of get your gauge from a frustration standpoint, and I'll start with this. Your defense gets you 3 takeaways. 19 points off 3 takeaways isn't going to beat many teams, let alone 2-8 Pittsburgh. How frustrated were you, obviously, seeing your defense play their hearts out like they usually do, and the offense just it is terrible conditions, but the Browns found a way to put up points, and the Steelers didn't. I guess just talk about that starting off. It's just like, what do you think of this offense? And I mean, you had some high praise for this team overall. Has that tampered off or changed? As just from a national perspective, it seems like teams are either saying it's a division game and we're fine, or legitimately the sky has fallen or is falling currently.
I really love football fans, dude. We're all freaks. I'll just say that. First off,
a different breed for sure.
All overreact to one extreme or the other extreme, whether it's a low or a high. There's definitely concerns, I will say, with this offense and the fact that we didn't score a touchdown until the 4th quarter. That's my main thing, is we didn't score a touchdown against the Ravens. Fine, you got away with that one because the defense played phenomenal, and that's a division game, so you're familiar with that. But I mean, the touchdowns for me definitely are concerning. The sky is not falling per se, because this was going to be this was just a tough spot in general. Our 3rd game in 11 days. It's a divisional game on the road at Cleveland. I know they're not a good football team, but they know us. We know them. We are, I don't want to take away anything from Cleveland, but we are essentially this is going to be their biggest flex this season. So they're going to get up for this one. And so, Cleveland played better than we did. But I'm not going to, the sky isn't falling. And, we're still in a good spot. And now we have 10 days to just chill. But I'm not going to freak out. But there's definitely concerns when you can't score a touchdown until the 4th quarter of a game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did notice that, down 18-6, I was like, I think it'll be really interesting because I was like, I definitely had my concerns about the Steelers offense being able to put up points when they're down like that, especially multiple possessions. And then I did see, Pittsburgh did get down the field really quick and score, but then I didn't know why the Browns I ended up just seeing the Browns get the ball back and they were deep in Pittsburgh's territory already because of the bad punt. But I didn't know what happened. I was just like following along kind of, but you know what I mean, watching the basketball game too. So I'm like, man, what happened? And then the first play that I saw was that big Jerry Jeudy third down. I mean, is that Porter Jr.'s fault in man coverage solely? I think Minka played that very badly as well as he was over there in the area. But man, I mean, what a play, like you said, from Jameis, just on that third down, found him, tough condition,
It was
and made the throw.
I would say a little bit. They're both at fault. It was a man-to-man defense, and so David Njoku kind of set like a pick route to a sense where it was just able to slow down Joey Porter just enough to where, football is a game of inches.
Yep, and Judy's that fast that if you give him 6 inches, he'll get that separation, and that's what you saw is he just had that couple inches, and Jameis found him.
Yeah, so they made
that was massive right there.
Yep. Yeah, definitely a sloppy game, but it was pretty cool just to see. Just the snow and all that was pretty wild. But Cleveland made the winning plays and we didn't. So
yeah,
simple as that.
Absolutely. What was your reaction to the intensive grounding turned? Because I thought that was massive for Cleveland. So just like how angry or like what was your initial reaction to that? Because that would have been a big play in Pittsburgh's favor, obviously.
All right, so I have two answers to this one. First off, I didn't know. So the guy, so they hit a lineman, and apparently the lineman had substituted as an eligible receiver downfield. So I didn't know that in the rules there was even a thing such as ineligible touching. I had never heard of that. So apparently if you throw the ball, and Winston wasn't doing it intentionally because he was getting hit as he threw it, so you have no control.
I would say he just needed to get away with it.
So he threw it at a lineman that was apparently a receiver, and so that changes things because intentional grounding, you lose the down and you're 10 or 5 yards back. So 4th and 7.
4th down at that point, and then
they probably would have kicked a field goal.
And at that point, it's a really, really long field goal too.
It's about a 45-ish yard field goal. I don't know.
In those conditions, that's not automatic. That's not automatic. Yeah. That's for certainly.
But my second answer to that was, and I didn't even know this in lifetime, but at this point in time, after Tomlin had accepted the penalty, he called a timeout when we had 2 timeouts. So we could have had another timeout to use on the defensive possession or the final drive. Either or. So I don't know why he burned a timeout. I didn't know that live, but after the game, everybody was bitching about that, and I was like,
it makes sense. Yeah, that's a big blunder when you think about it.
Why are you
what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get more informed on this 5-yard call? Like that, so like you said, that's a terrible, can't happen type of thing.
This bad clock management, that was really the part that I was like, having another timeout would have definitely could have changed things, but
Yeah, and then you got to think the drive starts out. They waste like 20 seconds on their opening
after the first play,
which I thought that was insane.
I would have called. I mean, obviously, you can go back through every game and say hypothetically in hindsight, but it's personally, after how slow it took them to get up to the line and spike it, I was like, right after you fucking got down, you should have called a timeout and had 40 seconds. But what do we know? We're just fans. But I'm not surprised. This was a trap game, and it is what it is. Yeah, hopefully it was a good Thursday night game for football fans, because I know Thursday nights this year have been pretty iffy.
Pretty blah.
Pretty blah. But the fourth quarter was definitely exciting. You saw a 27-point score by both teams. So,
man,
you know what? It was an AFC North game, and I'm just glad nobody got injured. That's my biggest takeaway. So,
I know that's right. And then my final just little tidbit I've taken away just from the media. Talk on George Pickens and, for one, his scuffle with the Browns defensive back at the end. And then I just want to hear, because I thought this was ridiculous in hindsight. You play in Pittsburgh, which offers some of the most ruthless weather conditions possible, both in the heat and in the snow. And you have the nerve to say you're going to blame this loss on weather conditions. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's some sore loser mentality kind of stuff. But I was not surprised after the game was over, the altercation on the it looks like where the fans were and with the Browns defensive back, because again, I'm not gonna ask for referees' help, but if you watch that playback, the defensive back is holding Pickens, and there had been a lot of
they were fucking up Pickens. They showed a little when I actually seen the reel of all that stuff go down. I think it was even a Pittsburgh one, and they showed the couple plays of just Pickens, like a couple of them were wishy-washy, tacky, like calls you probably would want, but you didn't get, whatever. But especially on that last play, he got manhandled, and they did nothing.
Yeah, there had been definitely a few sequences throughout the game where he was getting held, but I'm not going to point to that because they had plays to win it themselves. And, the officiating is not perfect as we've seen, especially this year. But I'm not surprised he was pissed off after the game with how he had been getting held that game. But, what are you going to do? But honestly, him blaming the weather on the reason that's why they lost is pretty pathetic, honestly. Just keep your tail tucked between your legs and just, they're the better team. We'll see them in 2 weeks.
I was going to say, you guys are going to see him. And that's what's crazy. It's really cool with how that game goes down. And then you're going to have a couple weeks of the Browns actually being able to say something for once, just for them to have to go redo it again in Pittsburgh in 2 weeks. So I think that's another thing that Pittsburgh fans, especially the ones that do feel like the sky's falling, you guys are going to get another crack at these guys. And it's not it's going to be at home. It's going to be, it's not like you can't avenge this one. So, yeah, I'll definitely, I think that was good. I got touched on everything I wanted to. I think that, like you said, I think that was going to be the Browns Super Bowl. And, I mean, I also think Nick Chubb is, I'm glad to see him back. His 2 touchdowns were definitely big in this one, obviously, that one at the end. But, yeah, just a good AFC North game. And it makes me kind of mad that, I was like, whatever. It's Pittsburgh Steelers. It's Steelers Browns. How good can it really be? Thursday night game's a bit terrible. I'll go to this basketball game. Damn near best Thursday night game we've seen all season. But I'm not mad at what I saw from the basketball team. And speaking of the basketball team, I figured I would talk on them a little bit here as I went and saw them play last night. They took on Tarleton State, who is a team from Texas. And that game finished up 72-49. It was a 40-30 game at half. And the Michigan Wolverines improved to 4-1, and they dropped Tarleton State to 1-5. So just from what I've seen this season, obviously a completely revamped team. Chase Howard's still on the roster, but not getting much playing time. 2 minutes just last night. And pretty much a full new team. Will Cheddar has moved to the bench where he got 7 minutes played. Sam Walters was a new guy brought in. He played 21 minutes, scored 13 points, 3 of 6 from 3, and 5 of 9 from the field. Definitely our best guy off the bench. He's a younger guy that they brought in transfer-wise. LJ Keister is a freshman who played 8 minutes. I'm excited to see him more, as well as Justin Pippen, the younger son of Bulls legend Scottie Pippen. So that was from the bench. Now we get into the starting lineup. They were able to bring back Namari Burnett, who had a wishy-washy first season after he transferred from Alabama. Thought about going to the draft, but did come back to help bolster this Michigan team. He played 23 minutes, 9 points, 2 of 4 from 3, 3 of 8 from the field, 5 rebounds out of the guard, so that wasn't too bad. Trey Donaldson, 29 minutes. He is the new point guard for Michigan. He puts in 13 points. Not too much. He did get 5 assists. 13 points, 5 assists. Not terrible there. Roddy Gale Jr., the Ohio State transfer, is a starter for this Michigan team. He transferred over from Ohio State to Michigan. He plays 31 minutes, has a team-leading 16 points on 6 of 7 shooting from the field and 3 of 4 from 3. The Wolverines shot exceptionally well from the three-point line in this one. Obviously, something you could not say from this Michigan team of the past with Jawan especially. Danny Wolf, one of my favorite forward transfers from Yale. He puts in 6 points. He shot 4 of 4 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 25 minutes, just 1 of 6 on the field. So would have liked to see him do better. But where he kind of faltered, Vladislav Golden, the other big man transfer, the 2 7-footers that we now have, he puts in 12 points, 4 of 8 from the field, 4 of 7 from the line, 3 rebounds, 3 blocks as well. So he definitely had probably his best game. I had been harping on him early on in the short season as I expect better. I liked what I saw from him. He was from FIU and Wolf was from Yale. I like them both and I want to see big things from them if they're going to be big contributors. And so far, Michigan has only suffered a 2-point loss to Wake Forest on the road in the short season to start 4-1. So Kurt, I guess obviously you're still all locked in with football and I'm a little bit moved on, but talk about what you think about this game. Obviously a little bit lesser of competition, but a decisive win for Michigan at home. And I guess just talk about these starters.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested to see how different we're going to play offensively speaking. I remember you telling me earlier that it looks like we're playing at a higher pace of an offense rather than kind of slow and methodical with things. I'll be curious to see how the new coach, Dusty, what kind of system he implements, what kind of substitutions and the lineups he runs, especially as we're heading into Big Ten conference play, if not mistaken, that starts here within the next few weeks. It's good to have some of these tuned up games and kind of get some things figured out, kind of figure out who's what roles, their roles. That's really what basketball is about, is finding your niche for every player, how we fit together, and just kind of building a rhythm. And 4-1, can't really complain. And, I'll be interested to see how this thing progresses moving forward.
Absolutely. Hell yeah, definitely going to give us something to watch. It shouldn't be as painful as trying to watch those Juwan Howard teams in the last few seasons. Just to highlight a couple of the really bright spots on Tarleton State. Going to start off with Bobo Benjamin, number 11. He plays 36 minutes. This coach really used his starters as 2 players played the full 40 minutes, and the Bobo played 36. So didn't really use a bench, but just tried to get what he could out of his starters. Benjamin shoots 15 points, 5 of 9 from the field, but all of his makes were 3-pointers as he was 5 of 7 from the 3-point line. He was an excellent shooter with a lot of those shots that he made pretty well, decently contested, not a whole lot of wide open shots, and he made a couple really tough shots. So that was a really good bright spot, as well as Ronnie Harrison Jr., the guard. He played 40 minutes, just shot 5 of 12 from the field, but he added in 14 points. So between that, not a whole lot of other people scored, obviously them just putting up 49 points, but that was their bright spot. And who knows with this Tarleton, they're going to have to definitely get their minutes figured out. If they've got guys playing 40 minutes, 36 minutes, 22 minutes, 14 minutes, and their bench looks like 28, 11, 5, 3, and 1. So definitely got to, like you said, got to a little bit to figure out with their rotations, but not a terrible look, especially from those 2 guys. They got at least a couple pieces, but other than that, not a whole lot to talk about, and I just wanted to highlight that as that's how I spent my Thursday night. So not bad. Definitely, like Kurt said, ready for Michigan to play some higher ranked opponents, and excited to hopefully get back into the Chrysler Center, as that was a fun game against Tarleton, and I think there will be some fun games to be had going forward.
Most certainly.
All right. So, Kurt, I think before we move into college football, we need to talk about something massive, mind-blowing, absolutely huge. Michigan football recruiting. Now, I'm just going to preface this by saying Michigan now has a top 10 recruiting class, despite Jim Harbaugh leaving and clearing the coverage of everybody good, especially a lot of those big-time recruiters on the defense side of the ball, taking a lot of that staff with them. a lot of guys that were with the program for a long time that we had, made connections, stuff like that. Sherrod Moore has to start all over. And instead of using this to kind of get his pieces in order or get his tips in order, he says, we're going to try to just hit the ground running. I'm going to take my staff. And he starts and he says, okay, number one overall QB in the country, Bryce Underwood. He plays right up the road in Bellevue, Michigan. Jim Harbaugh, obviously not his style. That's not the way he ran his football team. He lets Bryce Underwood go by the wayside. He was going to go to LSU. He wanted nothing to do with Harbaugh. The Underwood family did not like Harbaugh, as more reports have surfaced. Now that the stuff has gone down that it has, Underwood was completely out on Harbaugh. No chance he was coming here with Harbaugh at the helm. Sherrod Moore comes in. Him and his staff, new appointed general manager Sean McGee, were really tasked with trying to just make something out of nothing with Bryce Underwood. And I won't say without nothing, as the university finally wises up and uses the NIL that they have at their disposal and all of the completely insanely wealthy people that have gone to the University of Michigan because of how prestigious of a university it is. And so that's really what it was. It started as Sherrod Moore comes in, he makes a staff, and he said, we're going to hit the ground running. And really, he had done a really good job of recruiting. In recent weeks, he had flipped a very highly touted four-star Shamari Earls, cornerback that was committed to the Georgia Bulldogs, gets him to go to Michigan, as well as Andrew Babaloa, five-star offensive tackle. They got back into the race for them. That was just the start. That was the pieces kind of getting in place for Michigan football, if you want to say. And that was despite everybody leaving. So that's massive. That's massive. I'm looking now. Yes, Michigan has entered in. They are number 9 in the country right now. And I just want to say, ha, ha, ha. And this is just a start, because all of you said we're going to fall off completely, especially in the recruiting trail, fall off the face of the earth. And right now, I believe Michigan State, just as a little brother reference, they sit around the mid-30s with their recruiting, and they're not faring much better. Especially, actually, they're worse than Michigan right now. So I'll just say the future still looks bright around here. I don't know what to say about the future in East Lansing. So those are the guys I highlighted. 4-star Andrew Olis is another tight end prospect who Michigan has had, but did have some guys come in like Notre Dame and schools like that trying to pry him away. But Cart, got to get to the big news, and I'm going to start with the little bit of a smaller fish in the big scale of things, and this is Elijah Dotson. He is a 4-star defensive back, number 10 in his position, and number 2 in the state of Michigan. He had been committed to the University of Pitt, and another guy that just was going to get out of the backyard. Michigan was going to just let him slip by the wayside again. As that's one thing that just us as a whole have not done insanely well, and as recruit in the state of Michigan. It seems like a lot of these highly rated guys end up going elsewhere a lot of the time, and it looked like that was going to happen again. Elijah Dotson commits. This was last night. He flips his commitment, as it was all signs were turning that way, including him wearing some Michigan gloves in one of his high school playoff games that I attended before their eventual loss to Detroit Catholic Central last week in the playoffs. So with that kind of helped us out, because we knew we would probably get some commitments, or we would find out more if their season ended. So I did want to see them make it all the way, but with their season ending, they did have to kind of push up some of that timeline. So Elijah Dotson was the first domino to fall, just a massive pickup for this team and this squad. And then obviously later on last night, Bryce Underwood, 2025 number 1 overall recruit in the country, not the state, not the district, not in the Western Hemisphere, the whole thing, the whole United States. He's number 1. He's number 1, and this was insane for us to land. Like I said, Harbaugh did us absolutely no favors in this, as it was come to learn. Bryce Underwood in 2010, at a really young age, had wanted to go to Michigan his whole life. This was kind of kept under wraps, as I don't think nobody wanted this to get out. But in his commitment video, he said that in 2010 he wanted to be at the University of Michigan, which would have pained me even more if we would have let this guy get out of our own backyard. knowing that he wanted to play there from a young age. He's the best, so it's not like it's a young guy like that you just let go that you didn't know who it was. He's the best in the country. Like, this would have been a catastrophic fail if Harbaugh was still here.
The bag.
A fumble in the bag entirely, and instead, Bryce Underwood has committed to Sherrone Moore. As I can't believe it happened. As stuff has come out more behind the scenes, it was reported that Bryce Underwood has been at practice all week with the team, just nobody could report on it. And he actually pledged to the team on Wednesday night. He announced his commitment to the team, and they wanted to just keep everything under wraps and let everything get, just social media wise, probably get everything going that way, as he announced his commitment late Thursday. As my day was kind of meh, just kind of getting through the work week, and then at the end, it went crazy. It was just like I was getting ready to leave, and then all I hear is my phone start buzzing, and everybody around work starts going crazy. And like even some Ohio State fans would mention, I think this is incredible for the rivalry, as number 1 overall recruit Bryce Underwood heads to Ann Arbor, and number 2 overall quarterback recruit Andrew St. Clair heads to Ohio State, and he is a phenomenal quarterback prospect who I will absolutely give his flowers to. I think we will see him on that sideline and playing in that game 100% for a couple years to come, and I think this just makes it even better to now say that we have 1 and they have 2, and we can see them go back and forth hopefully for at least 3 seasons. So Kurt, obviously, I've been going for a minute. This was just I've been hot on the recruiting trail. I followed this pretty closely. So I guess just talk about it, man. Talk about what this means. Some big names. From going from a team that you really saw mostly 3 stars, high 3 stars, maybe some 4s if we were lucky. And now, man, number 9 in the country, number 1 overall prospect in the country. Talk on it, man. Let's go.
Yeah, this was something that came way out of left field, personally, just my opinion. I know we had talked about it the other day. The last time we had hung out, we were talking. It sounded like he had declined our offer, and he was going to LSU, and it was kind of like, well, there goes that. Yeah, I was like, well.
Yeah, I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
I was just kind of like under the impression of, well, another one bites the dust, and no, this QB room is not looking too promising with just one Jaden Davis. But last night I was just scrolling down the timeline, the social media world, and I had seen that it had been reported that Bryce Underwood had flipped his commitment, and initially, my apologies, I saw Sherrone Moore post the eye emoji, and I was like, wait a second. What's this? What's going on?
You know something good coming.
I was like, wait a second.
That's his thing. Every coach got something they post, and Sherrone Moore has the eyeballs, and every time he posts those, something good coming.
I was like, wait a second. What's going on here? What's going on? And then a few moments later, I saw that, and I'm not going to lie, I was pretty... If I could have been doing flips, I would have been doing flips, because this is such a non-Michigan move, knowing that, just throughout the past, 10 years, basically, Harbaugh had been there. We had never gotten a prospect like this, besides Rashawn Gary. He wasn't number 1 in his class. He was like top 3, yeah. We hadn't gotten a guy like this since Rashawn Gary. And especially a quarterback. The last guy we had gotten that was this highly recruited was JJ, and that was, 2020?
Oh my, I just looked. Rashawn Gary was 1. He was 1 at everything too. But maybe just like offensively. But it does say that Rashawn Gary was 1 at everything as well.
Okay. But getting the number 1 quarterback, the number 1 prospect, especially at the most vital position in football, wow. It shows that, for one, Michigan is willing to get after it. Sherrone Moore is willing to go after it. They know it. We know it. Everybody knows it. And they went out, and they didn't play hardball. They didn't say,
they got right after it too. Especially to be that far behind. Michigan is an afterthought. Bryce Underwood is signed, sealed, and delivered, ready to go play in the great state of Louisiana and play for a garbage coach like Brian Kelly, which would have made me even more angry to lose somebody that really wanted to go to Michigan to somebody so dreadful. Brian Kelly might be my most hated coach of all time, especially if you think of outside of Ohio State coaches. If I can't use one of them,
Yeah.
he's up there for sure. Because I hate how he degrades his players. He always has. He's, to me, so overrated. It's not even funny for what he's actually done as a coach. And then to think about it, he's had all this opportunity and all this, just everything handed to him silver platter on a tray at LSU, and he has done
Talk about
absolutely nothing.
Talk about somebody on third base.
Regressed. Yes, I was gonna say he's regressed LSU almost now because they were still, Ed Orgeron left them in a really good spot, and that's not so far removed from Joe Burrow.
That's what I'm gonna say.
National championship.
You
can't say that. Brian Kelly, this is all on you, my guy.
I was just gonna mention.
All on you.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention they had just come off of that team with Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Burrow, and now they just gone downhill.
Who else can you blame? Because I'm not. I mean, the players obviously you can blame for an extent, but Brian Kelly's got to take a lot of that blame, in my opinion. And it couldn't happen to a better person, in my opinion. I do feel for because I've always liked LSU. I love that stadium. Death Valley's an incredible stadium. Looks like an incredible place to watch a football game. So always have rooted for LSU. But can't root for Brian Kelly at all. And to steal this guy away from him especially after how cocky and confident all of their fans were. Obviously, I'm a lot more in tune with the recruiting boards and just on both sides, the cockiness and just everything that came out of it. A tremendous get for Michigan. And I think you will start to see really, really quickly, this recruiting trail is only going to get hotter as the number one recruit in the country is now going to be almost your biggest recruiting piece.
I was just going to say, I mean, I know it's still really late in the recruiting game, but just thinking about what this might bring as far as guys who are now going to be interested to play with him and now know that, hey, they got this guy. I want to play with him. I want to be a winner. That draws more players potentially, whether it be transfer portal or future prospects. So, this really has opened a massive window that we have to take advantage of. And, I'll be really interested to see what happens with Jaden Davis moving forward. Does he stay? Does he want to compete with, does he want to compete with Underwood? But, all that will get itself figured out next year. But, yeah, man, super excited. And, at least something good came out of this season. So
absolutely. And then with another guy, Brady Hart out of Florida, he'd been a long-time Michigan pledge. He's another really, really highly rated quarterback. This room just keeps getting deeper at this point from the recruiting trail. Obviously, they still got to translate and all that stuff still got to happen. But from just an outlook, this is starting to really heat up after, a lot of people gave Sharon Moore a lot of flack for this season. Some of it deserved, I will say that, but a lot of it undeserved, and they really didn't give him his chance at all. And I just think this just shows you he was not going to let himself be a coach that came in here and after 2 seasons of average get fired. He was going to say, we're gonna be the best that we possibly can be this season, but we're not messing around when it comes to years after this. And I think that we see this. We see this with Bryce Underwood, and just some names that I've seen thrown around since Bryce Underwood has been committed, not even 24 hours prior. It's insane. This class could truly end up at 9. It could end up top 5. I truly believe that with some of the names I've seen thrown around. A big one is Derek Meadows, and I'll tell you this, if LSU fans are listening, he will not go to you. He may not go to Michigan, but he will not go to LSU. I'll put some chips down on that one for sure. He will not end up at LSU. He is a current commit there. He won't end up there. I can almost tell you that. And Brian Kelly, that OC, probably gets fired after the year if you're trying to save your job. But man, you probably got one more year of this and you're done too. And then after that, who's gonna really give you a chance? Because what did you really do at Notre Dame? Nah. And then what did you do at LSU?
More of the same.
Even worse.
More of the same.
Probably
worse.
Especially with what you had at your disposal, probably worse. Because you could say, "Oh, it's hard to get into Notre Dame." No, it's not hard. It's not hard to throw money at 4 or 5 stars and commit it to play. I mean, SEC is SEC, but man, if you're Brian Kelly, if you're Brian Kelly, you got to go get some of these.
You had Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
Heisman.
He didn't. Yeah, he had Jaden Daniels. Right. He had Jaden Daniels. And he didn't even do nothing with him. He didn't even do anything with him.
Just under the definition of an underachiever. That's what I would say about that guy.
Underachiever. I agree. Underachiever. Yeah, I am truly excited. Truly excited to see.
No, definitely excited.
Where this class ends up, and it currently sits at 9. So definitely gonna have to keep an eye on that. But had to cop on here and talk about that, as obviously that was incredible news.
I had to talk about that.
Now, college football Saturday. We do have to get back. We have to get back. We unfortunately have to talk about this dreadful season for the University of Michigan this year. But, there's still games to be played.
Yes.
There's still season to be had. And there's still things that can be accomplished here. So, eyes must be focused. We have at least now some things to cheer for, as it was looking pretty gloomy on the football side throughout this season. I'll say that coming off of this and 15-0, and yeah, pretty gloomy, pretty bad. Nonetheless, we're looking at some of these games. So
week 13.
We'll save Michigan because they are at 3:30, and we'll just go into week 13. So, just some action games that happened throughout the week. I'll quickly highlight a really good game as two 7-3 teams, 7-3. Toledo took on what would have been 7-3 Ohio, and Ohio actually beat the brakes off Toledo, 24-7.
The Bobcats.
That's a really bad game, as Toledo puts up 7 points in the second quarter, and that's it. Wow, as Ohio looking really, really good, really good. 6-1 in the MAC, 8-3 overall. Yeah, really. I mean, the running back, 33 carries, 125 yards, and a touchdown. So they fed him, just probably controlled the clock and didn't let
manhandle Toledo.
Which even more crazy, Kurt. This game at half, 7-0 Toledo. This game after 3 quarters, 7-7. Ohio puts up 17 points in the fourth quarter to win this game.
Man, something must have went wrong. Something must have went wrong, man.
That must have been crazy.
Some broken plays or tackles or bust coverages or holy damn.
So that was Wednesday. Buffalo gets a big win over Eastern Michigan on the gray Eastern Michigan field. I love how they do that. That field is so sick. That gray Eastern Michigan field is so cool. Miami is 7-4. So there's a couple really good MAC teams. Ohio, Miami, Toledo is still in there, obviously, despite that loss. Miami picks up a good win over 6-5 Northern Illinois. They win 20-9. Central Michigan, fire up chips, 4-7, picking up a big MAC win, 16-14 over Western. Big win. Look at this. On Tuesday night, 0-11, Kent State played against 3-8 Akron.
Akron
and
Roos.
Kent State remains winless. They are at 0-11 on the season.
That's
with
rough.
With one more chance to get a win,
salvage the season.
Defeated on the season. So that was just some. I really love how they do that with Max, and just a couple football games sprinkled in
some action
throughout the week.
Action.
Just to throw something on the TV on a random weekday night when you don't got nothing on, and some football is always good. So can't argue with that.
Can never complain.
Right. So that was the good old Maxton. Let's get into tonight though. Friday night football. Obviously got some high school playoffs still going on, but in the college ranks, we got 3-7 Temple taking on UTSA. UTSA's 5-5. UTSA, a whole lot of points here. 16.5 points at home. Any thoughts on that bad Temple team? Obviously not much to know about this. It's just a little American League football on a Friday night. But I guess this 16.5 point, what do you think? You think can Temple cover that? 2-4 road record, or 2-4 American record does Temple have. They're on the road though, and UTSA is 3-3, so just a little bit better in their conference. What are we thinking here? We thinking they almost get 3 touchdown cover, or Temple get a little bit of fight here?
I think Temple and UTSA gets a little scrappy.
Okay, I like it. Featured prime time Big Ten football game on Friday night as the 4-6 Michigan State Spartans take on the 1-9 Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue is 0-7 in the Big Ten. Michigan State is 2-5. This game from East Lansing features Michigan State as a 14-point favorite. Now, the Spartans obviously not faring too well. They're coming off of 3 straight losses, 2 really embarrassing losses to a really good Indiana team, and a double-digit loss, 20-point loss to Illinois last week on the road. Before that, they obviously lost to the Wolverines by a touchdown. They have lost 6 of their last 7 games after starting 3-0. They've lost 6 of the last 7. If that doesn't say Michigan State football to you, I don't know what does. How about them Spartans, baby? How about them Spartans? Does Purdue, do you give Purdue any chance? Hey, think about this. Okay, Purdue, start the season. They play Indiana State. They win 49-0. They have now lost every single game since. Obviously, that's a really hard Purdue schedule. They got week 2, Notre Dame, 66-7. They played Oregon State, lost by a couple scores. Nebraska, pretty bad. Wisconsin, even worse. Illinois won. Illinois was. I mean, that would have been massive for them.
49 in overtime.
50-49 in overtime.
Look at their schedule.
Look at all these ranked teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'll play 5 ranked teams before the season ends. And then Wisconsin's not ranked where they probably should be. Michigan State would be ranked if they were just a little bit better. I mean, talk about a gauntlet of a schedule. And a lot of these games on the road, Notre Dame you got at home, dreadful. Illinois, that would have been a huge win in Champaign too. And then you had to go to Ohio State. You got to go, obviously, to Michigan State and then to Bloomington, as Indiana will certainly not take you lightly. Rivalry game, and they have a lot to play for. They need every win they can get, especially if they look pretty bad in the game we would talk about this week for their Saturday matchup. So they're going to need every win they can get. But, Kurt, I know you kind of came up with an interesting claim. Michigan State, Purdue, 14-point line. What do you think here?
Michigan State is sleeping on Purdue. This is a trap game. Friday night, I know it's East Lansing, but I know Purdue hasn't looked the most competitive in some of these games, but anything can happen in some of these games, and I would definitely be in favor of taking Purdue with the points.
Absolutely. I want to go the way of UTSA. I see there's been some line movement, and UTSA continues to creep up. So that just tells me nobody has faith in this Temple team. Quickly, I would take UTSA, but not big. Don't put a whole lot of money on it if you're going to put some money on it. Just some Friday night football to enjoy. This Michigan State matchup, I mean, they're 4-6. If they want any chance of winning, of making it to a bowl game, they really need this win. As they do end the season off with not equally. Rutgers is actually 6-4, so definitely a bit better than 4-6 Michigan State, who is not an easy task to win. So they definitely need this win. But something tells me, I feel like if we see a lopsided UTSA game, something tells me 8 p.m., Michigan State, Purdue. No reason Purdue should have a chance in this game. Probably go Boilermakers. Maybe that's just my bias on Michigan State, but man, something tells me it might get a little dicey in there. Tonight.
I think it will.
So you're thinking we're both gonna ride Purdue plus 14. What about that? You like 48? What do you think about 48? You think that's low? You think 48's a low total? Or where would you lean that way? Would you go over or under?
I'm gonna roll under 48 points. 48.5. So you need 49. I mean, you probably need. Man, that's almost 50 points. I don't know if I think Michigan State will score, but is Purdue really going to score like that? I don't know. I think if Purdue hangs in this game, it'll be a lower scoring type of game. I don't know if I'd even touch that over-under. The over-unders are always, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, no, 100%. I just wanted to see where you leaned with that 48 total. I felt like that was a little bit low here. And then obviously we got a Friday night nightcap, which actually looks like it'll be a decent game that I'll try to stay up for. But of course, with a 10 p.m. kick, God, that's with college football Saturday starting so early. Come on, can we do something about these like 10 p.m. 10
How about
p.m.
8:30?
Can
Why
I
not have
can I
two
get
games at 8?
Like I get it's only like 7 in Vegas where they're probably at, or California, wherever this it's in California. But yeah, 10 p.m. is rough. But this game is actually really good as an 8-2 ranked UNLV team. They are ranked 24. They're taking on a San Jose State team who's 6-4. 6-4. They are 3-3 in conference play. UNLV is 4-1. Okay. Looks like they've won 4 of the last 5 games, and their only loss is, or not their only loss, but their recent loss is a 5-point loss to a really good Boise State team. And then the other loss was bad, but it was that overtime game where McCord went absolutely bananas and beat them 44-41. So, I mean, they'll have played a ranked team there in Boise State. Not a really hard schedule, anyways. But they should be ranked. And in this game against San Jose State, it is a rivalry game, but they're pretty. Oh, they're only a touchdown favorite on the road. They're only a touchdown favorite on the road. 73% chance to win this game. Huh. Let's see. San Jose State played Boise State. They got whacked. They kind of played a couple of the same teams, a couple different ones. 7.5-point line. I feel like UNLV doesn't drop. I don't think they drop this one. Something tells me they don't drop this one. 7.5 or 8. I'm probably laying
That's
that.
a pretty high. It's pretty high over under. Holy crap! Talk about no defense. 59.5.
60 points. 60 points. Yeah, I could see that coming in real close too. I could see that. Yeah, because these, especially the Mountain West, they don't play
much defense
there.
played out there.
They don't play defense.
No.
All right, go UNLV there. Kurt's going the same way, and we can get into this college football Saturday. Just not a whole lot of crazy games to talk about or highlight, but just got a couple I wanted to run through real quickly. So we will start the day as Ohio State gets yet another Big Ten Fox noon kickoff garbage. Put them on at night. Quit being afraid of the dark. Pansies. They're in Columbus. Noon game. This line, I believe, started at 13.5. It's worked its way a little bit down to Ohio State minus 11. This game is from Columbus, like I said. Obviously, two really, really big games, I believe. Oregon's already locked up their side of the Big Ten title game.
Yep.
Ohio State with the win locked up theirs, and I believe Indiana with the win would lock up theirs. I think winner goes no matter what. I could be mistaken, but I think that is how that goes.
Yeah, obviously, if Indiana wins, they lock it up. But then it might come down to next week because then they both have a loss.
Oh, that's true though.
But Ohio State would have the tiebreaker. No, this game is very crucial for the Big Ten and taking the second spot as far as whoever plays Oregon and Indianapolis.
Most definitely.
But it is interesting to see that line go from what was a minus 14.5 to minus 11 Ohio State. So it looks like the people are definitely taking Indiana with the points.
Yeah, that thing would have been heavily bet all the way from 14.5 to make it down to 11.5. It must have been pretty heavily bet, as I think people may think Ohio State gets a win, but not too much of a lopsided one. And it seems like a whole lot of people don't even think they'll get a double-digit win with this line down to 11. That is to say that Indiana is no slouch, but what everybody can knock them on is their insanely easy schedule. Like, they have played absolutely no one. Yep. Obviously, like, you hope for a UCLA to be decent, or maybe like a Nebraska to be decent. Washington have been decent. So I mean, a couple of seasons ago, a schedule of Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State. That's a pretty rough one. But in 2024, it ended up being a 56-7 win, decidedly over Nebraska, a couple touchdown win over Washington, a beating of Michigan State, and then Michigan, who has not had a pulse all season, had you on the ropes and really, I don't even,
Should
you
have
can
won
call
that
me
game.
biased, all you want. The Wolverines should have won that game. And I don't say that lightly, because if Michigan gets beat, they get beat. And if I think they get beat, they get beat. But if they're gonna win the game, or they should have won the game, they should have won the game. And to me, it's just they have a quarterback at all that has a pulse, even a little bit, just a little bit. They win by 5 points already. Michigan wins that game by 3 or 7 outright as like a double-digit dog. So let's just start there. And then now they're expected to go at Ohio State. I'm glad the line's gone down. I don't know how much faith I have in this Indiana team, because as much as I want to put faith in them, it's almost kind of seems like they get steamrolled. And then they kind of get, then the committee, because I've already seen it been thrown around, the committee has a really weird position, because they have Indiana, shit schedule, 1 loss, versus a couple, 2 loss, really hard schedule SEC teams for one of those final playoff spots.
Yeah, I think in relations to what you're talking about as far as what happens post-home with this game, I think it has to do with how the game plays out. You know, if you're talking how Indiana gets steamrolled, then it's going to be hard to keep them in the top 10, let alone the top 12. I think they'd be on the I think they'd probably be 11,
Right.
maybe 12. But, you know, they've won all their games for what that's worth. But I don't really think they played anyone even halfway decent until Washington or maybe Michigan for sure. And even then, I feel like Michigan should definitely have won that game. We blew that once again. That wasn't the first time. But heading into Ohio State and a big game, you know, where Ryan Day, outside of Michigan, Ryan Day has basically owned the Big Ten when you look at his record across the board. Is Indiana really a top 5 school? No. Just like with Penn State, were they really a top 4, top 5 school? No. But they're up there because of their records. You know, I think Ohio State probably, they're definitely going to win this game. As far as the spread goes, I'd probably lean, you know, Indiana. If you had been able to get them at plus 14.5 for sure, but now at plus 11, I'd almost lean with Ohio State on that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's dropped a little bit, but I really truly expect this game to be around 7 to 10 points if Indiana's lucky, but it probably ends up being 2 scores. So unfortunately, with the massive 3-point line drop, I loved Indiana with the two scores, as I don't think they could be able to cover that unless all things really broke loose for Indiana. But like I said, they haven't really proved too much to me. And then you add in their really, really soft schedule. Cignetti's done a good job, but he's done really what any above average coach is probably doing with this schedule. But outside of maybe like a slip up with, you know, he really didn't have a close game besides that Michigan game. So, you know, maybe another coach slips up there, but he finds a way to get it done. Unfortunately, though, I just think that Ohio State will be too much. In Indiana, I think this could have been a little bit dicier. In Columbus, probably would side with Ohio State. Touched on that one. Let's move on down the board a little bit. Kurt, you see any games that tickle your fancy?
That's what a phrase that one is. You know, I think Ole Miss Florida might be a little spicy. Maybe.
From the swamp.
Yeah.
Florida double digit dog from home. Not much to play for, sitting at 5-5. And Ole Miss right in the playoffs right now, sitting at 9 with 2 losses. They're an exact example of the exact SEC team that could be put in over in Indiana with 1 loss. So this game, obviously massive. So what were you thinking there? Did you want to lean Florida then?
I just think it might be.
I almost think
I think
Ole Miss has too much to play for right now.
I was just saying. I think this could be one of those sleeper games that we see where it's like, whoa, Ole Miss Bailey just grabs by, and that's what really matters in these final couple of weeks is just trying to punch your ticket into the playoffs. But SEC conference game on the road, you never know, man. I mean, we just saw, if I'm not mistaken, who was it? A couple weeks back, was it Georgia Tech who beat up? Man,
Miami.
who was it? Miami. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I don't know, just something to keep your eye out on.
Absolutely. Yeah, with that, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, Miami, yeah, they got one loss. They're not playing nobody. They got Wake Forest. Florida obviously needs a win to be bowl eligible. I don't know, man. Something. I want to say close game, and then I almost want to say like Lane Kiffin has never been this close to the playoffs with his own team as a head coach. So I almost think that he really tries to flex his muscle here because even a close win could knock him out just being number 9. But I think beating Georgia last week handily, could there be a little letdown spot too? You beat Georgia at home. They got to travel to Florida. I don't know if I'll bet this one, but you know what? For the sake of the podcast, I'll probably go Florida plus 13. It might be a little bit too much.
Might be a letdown.
Maybe they just cover it, but I could that letdown spot. I forgot about that. That kind of sways me a little bit more to Florida because I mean beating the third ranked Georgia team that you could never beat ever, and you beat them decisively, handily, couple scores. Yeah, that's a pretty big high, and then you gotta turn back around, try to get refocused, then travel on the road to a Florida team that's still trying to get bowl eligible and got a quarterback in DJ Lagway who's young and hungry and wants to have a staple win for his first season.
Could make for a scrappy one. Could make for
I think it'll be
an interesting game.
There's a good. I like that. I like how this noon slate's shaping up. As I kind of have looked at a couple of these games, moving on down the 12 o'clock slate, we got an ACC battle as it's going to be SMU ranked at 13 outside looking in college football playoff. They are 9-1 right now, and they take on 5-5 Virginia team from Virginia as they look to play spoiler with SMU as a 10-point favorite. Virginia's lost 3 games in a row. Close loss to Louisville by 4 points. 17-point loss to Clemson at Clemson. And 41-14 loss to UNC before beating Pitt by 5 points and then losing again to Notre Dame by a couple touchdowns. Where SMU has been really just ragdolling a lot of the teams they played besides a 28-27 overtime win over Duke. And their one loss was BYU, who was ranked really high. They are 9-1 still and 14 in the country.
Who would have thought SMU almost in the playoffs? Wow.
The return of the SMU Mustangs after the death penalty and all that good stuff. They have some big wins. They got, obviously, Pitt was a ranked win. Louisville was a ranked win. BYU close loss, and they were in the top 10 at that point. So they close out the season with Virginia and Cal. But that's another team that if a team like Indiana slips up too bad, SMU could easily replace them with their one loss. But, they've had 2 ranked wins and a close ranked loss compared to Indiana with 1 ranked win, I want to say it was, if that. Where are you going there? 10-point game. Can Virginia keep this one close in a conference matchup from home?
I think I'm going to roll the way of SMU as they've been playing some pretty good ball this season, and I think they find a way into the playoffs, man. I think someone slips up here or there. There's still 2 weeks left as we push towards the final end of the season, and I think you might see the Mustangs there in the college football playoffs. So that make we'll see, but I think I'd roll with SMU covering that one.
Hell yeah! Last noon game I want to talk on. It's going to be ranked Illinois 7-3 taking on Rutgers at 6-4, looking to be ranked. This is a game from Rutgers where Rutgers is actually favored by 1 point in this game. Rutgers by 1 from home, 6-4 record. Both these teams have flipped conference record. Illinois is 4-3, Rutgers 3-4. Rutgers with a 53% chance to win according to ESPN matchup predictor. Illinois is 46. Illinois obviously just that close win over a really, really bad Purdue team, 50-49 overtime. After that, or before that, they beat Michigan by a couple scores and then lost to Oregon really badly and Minnesota by a touchdown. And then Rutgers coming off 3 losses, a bad loss, 20-point loss at USC, 3-point loss to UCLA, and then a Wisconsin whooping. So both these teams obviously not looking good. Illinois got a win. Rutgers a really bad loss, and they look to rebound. They are at home again, so they hope not to get whooped that bad at home for the 3rd straight game. Illinois has to go on the road after a couple at home. What do you make of this one?
Man, this one, I think this is going to be a really close, down to the wire type of game that could really go either way. And the line's pretty much a pick 'em. Rutgers is favored by 1 at home. It's a Big Ten game. Rutgers is always a decent team.
Feisty. They're always
feisty. They never really play bad ball. They're about the most definition of mid or mediocre you want to play. Illinois, ever since they beat us, they really haven't done much of anything. And they're ranked 25. If Rutgers wins this, they become ranked. I think I'd probably roll with Rutgers winning this game. And I'll also add in, I would probably take under 47.5 as with some of these Big Ten games, sometimes you don't see a lot of points or a lot of scoring. I think this will probably I think you might even see a game where both teams are under 20 points. So give me Rutgers in a close, scrappy win.
I do. I like that. I like that under a lot, actually. I think that both these teams are really, really defensive minded with not a whole lot going on the offensive side. Obviously, both these teams want to win. Illinois certain to stay ranked or maybe even move up, and Rutgers obviously scratching and clawing to try to make them rankings. So that one should be a real good one. I think I'm good to hop into 3:30 if you are good with that.
Yeah, we can do that.
No better way to kick it off than let's head to Ann Arbor for Michigan's final home game of the season. Michigan sits 5-5, still searching for bowl eligibility, and Northwestern is 4-6. This is a 10-point Michigan line as their favorite for the first time in a while. It seems like. And I don't know, Kurt, start us off with that one. Give us some takeaways. Man.
Well, I'll be curious to see after a bye week how we come out. If we maybe come out a little slow, if there's any adjustments, whether it be hopefully to the scrapping of this 2-quarterback system, which, I don't think that's going to change because I do think Alex Orji has a role with his team as far as 3rd and shorts, 4th and shorts, getting a yard or 2. I'm fine with him in that role. But when we get down to the red zone and we pull him out for QB power that goes nowhere, that's where it fucking irritates me. But it is what it is.
Sometimes you gotta.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta.
But as far as this game goes, this is a big game just for us to even get 6 wins, as we have the game lurking after this one. It's the final home game. And I think we covered this game. Northwestern doesn't really scare me too much. I'm more or less worried about the Wolverines beat themselves as far as dumb play calling, dumb turnovers, just penalties, things of that nature. But if we just play our game, pound the rock with Mullings, which I'm not sure why 2 weeks ago, but whatever. Some of the utilization
when he doesn't even when the leading rusher of the team right now doesn't know why he's not playing, there's an issue, and that's just like we're on the highs of this year in recruiting. We're back to the lows. Sharon Moore, explain yourself. Explain yourself. It's simple as that. Explain yourself, or get that shit figured out. I don't know. Michigan has dropped 4 of their last 5 games. Their only win in the month of October was that MSU win by a touchdown. Thank Jesus. Obviously, we had that Illinois loss. Let that one slip through. As you can say, for the Illinois game a couple weeks prior and the Washington game, 10-point loss and 14-point loss. Besides the 38-17 waxing behind the number one team in the nation, Oregon. Now, I think that Northwestern's almost dead last in the Big Ten. They're tied for second to last. Michigan is below average, below the average line, so they're still obviously not that good. 10-point line does make sense though. And Northwestern comes off a pretty big win over Maryland, which is what has happened to Maryland. They are awful. Did Mike Locksley get fired, or is he still there? Because if he's still there,
well, they played Maryland. It looks like back in October. Their last win was at Purdue, 26-20 victory in overtime, which was way earlier in November.
That makes sense.
Because last weekend they had just got beat by a team
Ohio
down
State,
south.
wasn't it? Yep. Yeah. So it took them overtime to beat Purdue. That's just not a good look. I mean, you could if Iowa, and I don't even think Cade played in this game, can beat them 40-14. Man, Cade didn't play in this game. They beat them 40-14 with their backup.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like this has got to be our get right game as we look to try to build something positive heading into the next one. So I just hope this isn't a spot where we overlook Northwestern looking ahead, and we come out with hopefully a good schematic game plan. Hopefully we took that bye week and did some game planning as far as this week and next week goes. I think we get this game done and we get this win. The defense will probably play solid, as long as they don't allow any big explosive plays and make Northwestern methodically drive the field. I think we'll get this win. And hopefully the offense just doesn't do anything stupid.
Don't kill us, because I think that, like you said, I think that we could certainly beat ourselves, but they do not have the talent to beat us on the field by themselves. So it's just going to take us playing smart and controlling the ball, and I think we should get a nice win.
And if Davis Warren is playing fine, do not take him out for orgy. Please don't.
Dude,
please don't.
I might lose my voice. I might attempt, because I am going to this game on Saturday, I may attempt to make Sharon Moore hear me in my screams, in my cries for Alex Orgy to be either used in a different way or not used at all. Because that is dreadful. It's dreadful. It's got to stop.
Yeah, the run, pass mantra of 2nd and 9. Let's run the ball for 2-yard quarterback power. I'm getting tired of that. So
tired.
Shotgun inside zone.
For sure.
That's what we've seen this year, so I don't expect them to just magically change everything up. I just hope they fine-tune some things and come out, look good, and get ready for a showdown the next week.
Just do enough to win the game. Like you said, get out of there pretty healthy and go try to take a crack at them bums down south.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving on down into this 3:30 action. Not a whole lot to talk about here. Texas is 9-1. They're 3 in the country. They come in as 20-point favorites over Kentucky. Not much to be said there. Penn State still overrated, I think. They're taking on Minnesota. They're 11.5-point favorites. What do you think about that one, Kurt? Do you think Minnesota? You give Minnesota any chance? They're 6-4 right now. From Minnesota.
I don't give the Gophers much chance.
Yeah.
I think Drew Large played a little bit better this season than he has last year. I'll say that much.
Yep.
I think he's definitely taken some progression as far as what I've seen. But Penn State, I think they're going to win out and punch their ticket into the playoffs. No question.
Makes sense. Yeah, they're top team right now, and obviously going to miss the championship game with that loss to Ohio State, but still a lot to play for. Still could possibly get a home playoff game if everything goes their way. And yeah, certainly not just going to be a little game. And Minnesota 6-4, a lot to play for. Would definitely be ranked if they could pull this one off from home. So we'll see about that one. Probably leaning more towards Penn State side though. 11.5 points as they look to try to, like Kurt said, punch their ticket. This 3:30 game, BYU 14, 9-1, and Arizona State is 21 at 8-2. So one of the only ranked on ranked matchups this week, as Arizona State is a favorite, a 3-point favorite from home in Arizona.
That's
This could
surprising.
be obviously BYU still trying to be, they're right outside on the outside looking in. They need a win to try to make that Big 12 championship game and possibly knock off Colorado, who looks like they're going to make that side. But also Arizona with a shot in their own right to make it with 2 losses right now, and then they'd obviously have a big one over BYU, and they probably would damn near flip in the rankings if they got that. So just a big game. I guess, how about that, Kurt? Arizona State -3.
That's real interesting. I haven't really seen a whole lot of the Cougars, BYU this season, to be honest with you. But if Arizona can pull this game out, man, that really will shake up that mid-teens type of that positioning there with Colorado right there. BYU, I think, yeah, man, that'll shake it up. That'll end BYU's hopes. That's for sure.
Yeah, 2 losses that'll push them.
Yeah, they'll
definitely be far away.
Yeah, they'll definitely be kicked out of there. I'm surprised you see Arizona State's a favorite at home, but I think that'll be. I think that might be game of the day. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I think that's potential to be game of the day as far as college ball goes. Maybe even game of the week. As I think this one's going to be pretty close, as there's a lot on the line for both teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't know if I would really lay these points. How much? But I really almost feel like Arizona wins this.
I think this is a pick. You could roll either way. Honestly.
So BYU did, and they lost. They lost last week for their first loss of the season. They lost to Kansas. I remember that from last week. Night game, big loss first of the season. They got to look to rebound. And then Arizona State played pretty well. They lost to Cincinnati by 10 early in the month, and then an 8-point loss to Texas Tech. So nothing to really hang your head there. But BYU, they got to go. They won't go from home. They lose. They got to go on the road. Big road game. Something tells me a lot of people say they look to rebound. I'm gonna say Arizona State. Close line, 165 to plus 140. Probably not laying those points, but probably would take Arizona State outright. I like that though. Like you said, game of the day, game of the week for sure. Of course, it's got to be on at 3:30.
Yeah, I love how it goes.
Ooh, yeah, there's not a whole lot of matchups I really want to talk about other than that. Going through 3:30, nothing really. Pitt and Louisville's good. They're both unranked right now, but they're 6-4 and 7-3. Louisville, the touchdown favorite. Big ACC game, and that kind of looks to shake out here. Feel like that could be interesting. Let's see. Boise's a big favorite. Oh, they're playing Wyoming. They should wax them.
That's a wax. Genty day.
That's
a big Ashton Genty day.
Then you would think Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M Auburn would be 2 big games, but Oklahoma unfortunately sits at 5-5, and their first season in the SEC isn't going to plan. Just 1-5 in conference play. Alabama, 13.5-point favorite on the road. What do you think there? Do you think double-digit favorite Alabama beats Oklahoma at home? That bad? Not beat them, but that bad?
Has been shaky throughout this season. I know they come off a big win versus LSU a couple weeks ago, but I don't know, with a scrappy team like Oklahoma, a team that can put up points. I know they haven't fared too well in the SEC, but I wouldn't be comfortable taking Alabama minus 13 and a half. I don't know about that. Alabama will definitely win the game, but I wouldn't be comfortable taking Alabama with that heavy of a line.
Especially just reading through the line a little bit, like 1-5. The whole country's probably going to be, if you're just a casual fan, and especially if you're an SEC fan, you're laying those points 9 times out of 10 with Alabama, I'd imagine, citing that Oklahoma's just terrible. And I really feel like they probably don't win, but could they make this a 10 to 12 point game and cover this number? Certainly the case is there.
Be against it.
The case is right. The case is there. Certainly. A&M at 8-2. This is actually kind of interesting. Only a 2.5-point favorite. They are on the road, where Auburn's 4-6, but they are 1-5 in conference play as well. So, do you think they can make this game a game from Auburn against a really good A&M team that obviously a loss from them, and that completely knocks them out of the. They're another team. See, there's another 2-loss SEC team. So Indiana, they just keep coming. They just keep coming from the woodwork, and this committee wants to get those SEC teams in there.
Oh, they absolutely do.
You better come correct.
They absolutely do. Man, I'm leaning Auburn with this one. I'm leaning with the Auburn Tigers with the upset.
Really?
Yeah.
Taking them outright?
I'm taking them outright. I think they end. I think they Texas A&M's playoff hopes. As there's always a weird weekend in college sports, or actually in sports, where you see a lot of upsets, and I think you could be looking at that in terms of this weekend. I know they're 8-2. Texas A&M is their first in the SEC. Wow, that's interesting.
South Carolina's been good though. South Carolina's been good in their own right, and like that's what I. Yeah, I mean, and this could be a complete in another reason like everybody's A&M. They take A&M. They're gonna set up a showdown with Texas.
And
could they be possibly overlooking Auburn, having to go to Auburn?
Yep.
Just in a short line. Like I think this bad of an Auburn team. I don't care if they're at home. They should be touchdown dogs if Texas A&M is really gonna be.
And it's only a minus. It's only a minus 2.5 line.
Only a minus 2.5.
And Bowling Green.
That feels weird.
Bowling Green lost to Texas A&M by 6 points. 26-20. Like, some of these wins, Texas A&M hasn't really been the most impressive. So I mean, this is definitely a spot where
they've gotten caught. They've gotten caught with their pants between their with their pants down.
Yeah, the Aggies. I don't know. So definitely keep your eye out on that one, as I think you could.
Wow, that's a
big
upset. That's a big Kurt nugget right there. Take Auburn outright. Short line, I do like it though. Short line, I like it.
And then with these night games at home, man, sometimes wild shit just happens. So.
Yeah, and then just some random games. Nobody really ranked for the nightcap. Iowa State plays Utah. Utah had a little bit. I thought they would be a little bit better. They're just 1-6. 1-6 in Big 12 play. 4-6 overall. Iowa State's ranked and 8-2. 5-2 in the Big 10. This is from Utah, but I'm probably laying the 7. Utah just really hasn't shown me much. I like Iowa State there. Matt Campbell's been a decent coach, and on the road, keep their rank. They definitely, because they lose that, they definitely become unranked. They want to try to keep improving to end the season. I'll take Iowa State there and lay that number. And the last game I would talk about, just because I love LSU so much, this game's actually kind of interesting to me. Both teams 6-4, LSU and Vanderbilt. This game is from LSU, and this game is a 7.5-point line. Now, obviously, LSU, not the happiest campers right now, losing their prize commit before their game, and obviously last time we saw them there, they were throwing things on the field, which could have played a part in Bryce Underwood choosing to come to Ann Arbor. I guess, Kurt, just thoughts on that and thoughts on a Vanderbilt team that's usually really, really bad, sitting at 6-4 and only a 7.5-point dog to LSU.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking Vanderbilt plus 7.5 this game. This was actually a game I had circled for the other podcast that we do. In regards to Sheck Luck, as potentially a game, definitely you can ride 7.5, but potentially another upset. As
Kurt's got a double whammy night pack special. My goodness, oh my goodness.
I'm just saying, when you look at Vanderbilt and how they've competed in some of these games, a 3-point loss to Texas, they beat Bama, a double overtime loss to Mizzou, 7th-ranked Mizzou. They've had a couple of solid wins. Virginia Tech ain't bad, and they beat Auburn 17-7. And I don't trust Brian Kelly in big games. So for me, this has the makings of close. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. I don't, and with the bad voodoo energy surrounding LSU right now, after they just quaked and lost Bryce Underwood, they might be sweating Saturday night, man. And Vanderbilt, you know what? Credit to them. Usually they're trash, but 6-4, pretty competitive. I think you got to give them some kudos. And I think I'm definitely gonna roll Vanderbilt plus 7.5 now.
Yeah, just looking at who Vandy's played this year, they lost to Texas, who is 5 right now by 3 points. That South Carolina loss was pretty bad, 28-7. But you can definitely rebound off that. But some big wins. They lost to 7 ranked Missouri at the time, 30-27 in double overtime. So a couple more of these wins go their way. That's 3 ranked teams on their schedule, right? 3 ranked teams on their schedule. LSU should be ranked where they've been bad. And then Tennessee's their last game of the year, so that's 4. Should be 5. A really hard schedule. And like you said, Vanderbilt, despite being 8th in the SEC, just a lot better than the bottom feeders that they've usually been. And I definitely like the way you're thinking here. At least Vanderbilt plus 7.5. As like you said, the sky is literally falling. And I mean, Brian Kelly's job's already been rumored to be thrown around with the buyout, and just how do you have this type of talent and you end up 6-4 anyways is beyond me. And then to only be a touchdown favorite to Vanderbilt, who you should always murder by 30, is insane, especially at home. There's not a whole lot looking up right now for Brian Kelly, and a loss here at 6-4, going to 6-5, and then that you got one more game before the season ends in a bowl game. He loses this game, it could be the final straw that cans him at LSU. So I think that's pretty big, especially you end the season. You got 3 losses right now, bad losses to Florida, Alabama, and A&M. You beat Ole Miss, which was a great win, but then you lost. Your only other ranked game was USC. You lost that too. So 4 ranked games, 1-3. Come on, Kelly. Come on, Brian Kelly. Holy moly, that's awful. Wow. Kurt's coming out with the double whammy SEC dog pack. I like it. Little Auburn money line, little Vandy money line. Make you some good money on that.
I know one of them.
Wouldn't that be insane?
I mean, I'm not even.
I can almost tell you for sure. You're gonna go 1 of 2. I bet. You're gonna go 1 of 2. I bet.
And if not, the points are not a bad idea.
And yeah, even that, like even if you're not as confident, throw some money on the points and just ride that out with us. And I do believe, even if these 2 teams do get close wins, that's what I mean. They'll be close wins. So ride with the 7. If they get beat by a touchdown or a field goal, you cash. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. I think we're good in the college ranks. And I think we're going to head over to our final little piece to this puzzle of this podcast. And it's going to be jumping back into the NFL. Obviously, after the masterclass on Thursday, Kurt won't have much to sweat for this Sunday, but going to be able to just sit back and relax and just watch some ball. So I think, Kurt, I'm going to let you handle this mostly.
Yeah.
You got the NFL knowledge, so just take us through whatever you want to highlight, just kind of like how I did with college, and whatever you want to feel like highlighting, let's do it.
I'm going to keep it real because that's what I try to do. I'm not going to try to BS anyone. I don't really see a lot of enticing matchups in this game on this Sunday.
Yeah, looking from just a bird's eye outlook, just scrolling through right now, I don't like a lot of these matchups. I think you could kind of see there'd be some potential. Like if the Cowboys were better, that Manders game would be good. But yeah, a lot of just, man, look at these. A lot of snooze fest games. Exactly. Yes.
Which is a rematch of last year's NFC divisional game. Came down to the wire. Green Bay, Jordan Love throws a game-losing interception. As this is a big game for both squads, especially if the Niners want any playoff aspirations. They're 5-5 on the year. It sounds like they may or may not have Brock Purdy playing. McCaffrey's back. Green Bay is in 3rd place in their division, sitting at 7-3 because Detroit's been balling and Minnesota's 8-3 as well. So Green Bay needs a win here, and they try to keep in the playoffs, let alone their division. If San Fran loses, they're probably done. And then I guess Arizona, Seattle, NFC West. Arizona's in 1st. Seattle's 5-5. Everybody in that NFC West is 5.
Okay, I'll give them credit for it just seems like we might just need a little midday nap, little 1 o'clock nap. Get back up.
Get your shopping. Get some errands.
Do your Christmas shop. Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Start the day off.
Early Black Friday.
Come home, relax, and come home, relax, and throw these 425 games on. Because
Yeah.
between they're not the best, but especially for what the week has in general, it's the best you're gonna find on that Sunday card. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
The Harbaugh Bowl. Wait, no, that's Monday. That's Monday. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Go ahead. Talk. I forgot. I'm excited for that one.
Again, 5-5. They're right there, and everyone's 5-5 or 6-4. So
could be a decent one. A lot to play for at least these 425 games, despite all the 1 o'clock games being, like you said, playoff teams versus it's what's crazy is I didn't realize this. Almost legitimately, every game but one is like that, and the only other one is two bottom feeders, Giants and Bucks. So every single 1 o'clock game is playoff team versus non-playoff team, or close to playoffs versus. So that makes for a really lousy one. But they at least followed up with putting all those together and then giving us a couple good 425 games before Eagles and Rams.
Yeah, decent 4 o'clock games, and then Eagles at Rams should be decent if Stafford shows up. I know they got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Eagles are on a 6-game winning streak as they're trying to get that 1 seed potentially if Detroit slips up. I would definitely probably ride with the Eagles in that one, unless Hurts has a little bit of his turnover-prone symptom he has at times. But really, the only game that I'm interested to watch the rest of the week, as far as NFL goes, is the Harbaugh Bowl.
Come on, man, let's go!
And I'm
ready for it.
I'm going powder blue, baby. I'm rooting hard for the Chargers, man.
Look at you, man. You ain't ever showing Uncle John no love, man. You ain't ever showing Uncle John no love.
I don't know if I could really ever think of a day I've rooted for that team, but this should make for a very enticing matchup, very physical brand as Harbaugh versus Harbaugh, run game, my defense versus your defense. Justin Herbert's playing some good ball. Lamar Jackson.
And the Ravens big offense showing. They get stifled by Pittsburgh, and now their season's really on the line. Needing to keep that they're both 7-4, and that's not easy to come back from. Or Chargers 7-3, but 7-5 isn't easy to come back from, especially for how good you've been.
Yes.
So this is almost a must win for both teams. The Chargers can afford a loss, but not really, and the Ravens really can't.
No, this is an absolute must-win for both teams. With the Ravens, they're obviously trying to keep up with Pittsburgh, and they don't want to lose back-to-back weeks versus AFC opponents. 7-5, probably still a playoff team, but things will get real gritty down the stretch. And then with the Chargers sitting there 7-3, 2 games back of the Chiefs, still with a game to play the Chiefs to try to catch up. A big game for them as they have a really good defense, only allowing 14-ish points a game. They're going to have a big task coming up against Lamar, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews. The Ravens do. They can just score at any play. You missed 1 tackle, so you got to be on your P's and Q's there. You got to play in sync. And I'll be really curious to see how Jim plays Lamar and Derrick Henry. Obviously, I'm thinking he'll probably look to take away Henry first. Stuff the run, make Lamar beat you, keep him in the pocket, as that's how we've given them issues, is making Lamar throw the ball. But it's at L.A., it's at the Chargers. Ravens get a nice 8-week break after playing Sunday against us in a very physical, close game. And I don't expect Justin Tucker to miss field goals like that again. So,
man, that was wild. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, that I didn't think I'd see that day. That's for sure. But I think the Ravens pulled this one out in a close game. I don't see them losing back-to-back weeks. I can't really ever think of too many times I've seen Lamar lose back-to-back games.
Yeah.
And it's a night game. It's on the road. The Chargers have a good defense, but Herbert's going to need to ball out and put up some points in this one.
Yep. Yeah, they're going to be hungry. They're going to be pissed off how they looked against Pittsburgh, and probably in what their eyes, in the grand scheme of things, was probably a really winnable game, and you suffer another loss again to Pittsburgh. So that's just got to be infuriating to that Ravens organization that they can never get over the hump, and now they really put themselves in a predicament where it really wouldn't have been as much of a must-win game if you're able to get that win in Pittsburgh, but because you can't, it really becomes that much more important that you try to find a way to beat Harbaugh and these Chargers. And I do think they're vulnerable. I kind of predicted this Chargers team to be a playoff team, but not the deepest runs. Maybe like a win in the playoffs and then get bounced at some point. But this game is going to obviously two wannabe playoff teams, and I almost think that you could say Ravens maybe not, but I almost say that if whoever wins makes the playoffs, whoever doesn't probably doesn't.
Well, not to cut you off, but this game is massive, like you mentioned, because this could determine head-to-head tiebreakers. Because these teams,
that too, especially with how the board is shaken out and just how close they are in record, 100%. So then it's like you got to think if you're coming off two in a row for the Ravens, then you got to go play Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Like you almost like it's not an easy Chargers team, but compared to the one loss or what two loss
Eagles, yeah.
You got to go and get this win if you like, because then you at least ride with the road win. You beat Harbaugh, a good Chargers team. You at least get your feet back under you a little bit, and then you go play Philadelphia, and you got to hope to try to make that a game, get a win there, to really get your season back in full swing. Especially with Pittsburgh kind of opening the door almost now with the loss to, or at least opened it more than they would have with a win. So
balances things out, yeah. So definitely this is Sunday. It'll be Masaminos. I'll probably just sip a little something and just hang out with y'all or something. But definitely excited for Monday.
We definitely gotta get us together, and we gotta watch this Harbaugh Bowl. That's for damn sure. Yeah, I don't think I really had anything else I wanted to touch on NFL wise. I almost want to say, could the Bears give the Vikings a game here, a divisional game, 4-6? That was the only really game that kind of caught my eye, especially with Darnold being up and down, and Caleb can be really up and then really down. So
yeah, that was probably one of the only games that caught my eye. Right. It's a divisional game. Right. Sam Darnold, like you just mentioned, he's had his moments. He's had some bad moments. And with the divisional game, the Bears defense is pretty solid. He could have a couple of turnovers, and it could be a real close, dicey game, as the Bears were a blocked field goal away from beating Green Bay last week. You know, that one's kind of interesting. But yeah, I think that's about it really for NFL as far as week 12.
All right, I think that'll do it. Really touched on everything I wanted to. Went around the country, into the NFL, and now after probably 2-ish hours, after everything's said and done, we're gonna get out of here. I think.
Yeah.
Carter, was another great one with you. Good time as always, and I'm excited to get back to doing these as well as these Shekel Up and just kind of touching on things that we might have missed over there. So that's been real nice and a good way to end the season and kick off the winter time as basketball getting heating up here with conference play.
Thanksgiving.
NBA's been pretty decent. Got Thanksgiving to look forward to with one of the best holidays of the year. Just a great day filled with food and all types of football and NBA and oh yeah, just the epitome of American holiday. Just all the fattening food you can think of in a day full of football. Like if we're thinking of American like perfect day laid out, there it is for you. So excited for that. I don't know, we may get on here before Thanksgiving, but in case we do not, I hope you all have a amazing Thanksgiving.
Well, before we got to get on here before next Saturday.
We'll definitely be on here. Yeah, probably plan for like another Friday out of us to get on here, and we're going to have to dive into that. We're definitely going to want to at least see what kind of chances we can make for Michigan for this game coming up next Saturday in Columbus. But that's next week. Got Northwestern to take out this week, and then we can talk about all next week. So
that's right.
Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Had a great time. Great one. And Kurt, I think this was a good one. Let's get out of here.
Always.
Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll be seeing you.
Peace out.
Let me end. I didn't do it. Let's try this.